fact, I'll dare say that there is no place else in the world where competitors collaborate as fiercely, and I don't think there will be one, right? Because it's so unique to us.
I don't know about unique, but I think there's certainly certain characteristics which cannot be reproduced in many other places.
So let me start with the fact that our diversity also helps us with that.
An ability to do pattern recognition and then creative destruction. Let me explain.
Every country in the world is unique and special in its own way. This is the story of one such country, a country that invented the zero many centuries ago and is today discovering infinity. It is about a philosophy. It is about a way of life, of nothingness and eternity. And it is about the physical, the scientific, the mathematical, and the here and the now. It is about the evening of today and the dawn of tomorrow. Is there a unique alchemy, a DNA, that enables India to create such a vast reservoir of IT professionals of caliber?
People come from different cultures, different backgrounds, different environments, and they've all handled things differently. By pooling all this together, as a group, we become much more effective in handling obstacles.
In the southern part of India, young girls learn what is called Rangoli. They will actually put a set of dots, and through the set of dots, they will create fairly complex patterns. They internalize a couple of patterns. By reusing them in creative ways, they're able to create fairly complex structures. This is what in software we call it design patterns.
I often think about my childhood visits to my ancestral home in Rajasthan in Western India, where one door invariably led to another door, which in turn led to yet another door, full of wonderment and adventure, and a perfect metaphor for what we do in the world of software. The religious and spiritual explanations are also very interesting and perhaps have a validity of their own. Take the Holy Trinity of Brahma the Creator, Vishnu the Preserver, and Shiva the Destroyer, a philosophy with strong parallels in information technology.
In several parts of the country, roughly once a year, we have a tradition of taking the images of the gods and dumping them into sea. It looks very funny, but nonetheless, that is how we do it. The main point that gets driven home is there is a time at which you have to kind of break and start afresh. It is not that you completely do a different thing, but a time has come that small improvements, small epsilons are no good. We need a major breakthrough. We need a delta. I think our ability to break from the past and start afresh is so important, and that comes naturally to a significantly large number of Indians, and that possibly explains why our guys do fairly well in software.
The idea that everything is churning, everything is transient, everything is ephemeral is innately Indian.
Indians develop a cultural agility that enables them to be true global citizens. They can work in any country, in any culture, and adapt quickly.
The passion for learning dates back centuries to the great centers of wisdom in ancient India. In Nalanda in Bihar, for example, there flourished one of the world's first great universities, as early as 5th century AD. A sprawling Ivy League temple of learning by any standards. A vast residential campus where over the centuries, scholars and pilgrims from around the world converged in the pursuit of astronomy, mathematics, medicine, and other sciences. Over 10,000 scholar pilgrims at its peak were at Nalanda, including the legendary Buddhist monk Xuan Zang from China, who in the 7th century AD left behind an account of a thriving, wealthy university with a 9-story library soaring into the clouds. On a Saturday morning, it is the rush hour at the temple of Saraswati, goddess of learning, in the town of Basra, on the banks of the river Godavari, about 200 kilometers from Hyderabad. It's a region that probably produces more IT professionals per capita than any other in India. Not surprising as you watch a bunch of future techies take their first baby steps into learning in a ritual known as Aksharabhyasam.
अमेरिका हा देश दाखवायचा आहे हिमोग्लोबिन तुम्हाला माहिती आहे ना आणि हे जे रक्त आहे ते ऑक्सी हिमोग्लोबिन बाय हर सब्जेक्ट at the last end of the sentence then use by and subject
1 4 2 8 5 7 परत परत येणार म्हणून 2.1 4 2 8
लिसन चं काय होईल Very good. Listen to listening. Dear children, it is very important to see the difference between the two types of sentence.
One of the positive legacies that the British left us was the English language. And that's become an equalizer and unifier in many ways. Its deep penetration, proliferation across all our universities, our education systems, has really helped us all think and communicate in a uniform fashion.
I think where India has an edge over some of the other Asian economies is also the prevalence of math and science as focus areas for families and for students. So that makes a huge difference. And if you bring the three of these things together, science, math, and English, I think that's a potent combination.
If you think about computer science or IT, information technology, the fundamentals are still the same. It's about math and being able to solve problems. Historically, we've had a tremendous amount of focus on that. In fact, I would say we are one of the countries that has got the most excitement around that among the world today, right? And that's fundamental to why a lot of talent is coming out of India. Because if you look at IT, it's sort of a combination of creativity and science. So being able to bring the two together in some fundamental ways is what is enabling India to have such a huge impact in the field of IT.
In fact, when you look at our top engineering colleges, such as the IITs, the original IITs were all set up in collaboration with Western universities. So we have a very strong emphasis on logical thinking and problem solving that permeates our college education system.
And with that into background, with our education into background, that gave us a very competitive edge across the world in these high-tech industries as such, which is IT as such. So that's the key, and that's the differentiating factor which we have. Until we are able to hold this differentiating factor within India, I think this is the key which will help us thrive across this IT as such.
The quality of education is very special. We have great institutions like the IITs and the NITs churning out very intelligent professionals in engineering and IT. The scale at which the educational system in India operates is very special, very unique to India. In the last 2 decades of our existence in India, we have matured into a very successful GIC.
We have a high middle class population, and this middle class population wants to grow. The growing middle class population puts a great emphasis on education for its grades. These kids are hardworking and are very competitive, and they want to go places.
So we now have a very diverse talent pool and highly skilled workforce coming from all over the country, from different parts of the country, small towns, big towns, cities, villages, so on. Right? So if you're going to have all of your talent come from very similar socioeconomic or locational demographics, your ability to innovate is going to be fairly minimal. But if you can now have talent coming in from different backgrounds, different sources, different mindsets, that naturally enables us to be more innovative. So it is actually a massive win-win situation.
The ideas aren't coming out of headquarters. They're coming from the local market. And I heard a lot about One India. I think we have a huge One IT platform.
You know, we came here for talent and we have stayed on for talent. Today we are about 3,000 team members here in Bangalore, and we operate as an extension of our Minneapolis headquarters, or a second headquarters for Target.
Well, it's been an exciting time, 25 years, and it's grown, become very large, and something that the whole world recognizes today. 3.2 million people working in this, $100+ billion of exports. So I think it's been very exciting, and this is a people-based industry.
It's been amazing to watch the IT industry evolve in India. Oftentimes people think of China as the manufacturing powerhouse in the world, but India really has become the IT powerhouse.
It was nascent, small, and had a long way to go with support from the government. But now, the way I see it is like a beacon to other industries. The very high standards it set in terms of ethics, profitability, embracing the larger population, gender diversity, and providing so many opportunities, irrespective of background, purely on merit.
HR in IT industry has undergone a paradigm shift, the way it used to be to the way it is today. From controlling to empowering, making sure the process is followed, to unleashing the complete potential of every individual. And that's the way the whole IT industry has brought a major shift in the way we look at people and their potential today.
And it's grown from zero to this over the last couple of decades. So it's seen phenomenal growth. But I think the industry is going to grow even more. The need for technology in the years and decades to come is going to be significantly beyond anything we can imagine today. Within Target, we are going through a massive transformation from being a brick and mortar company to an omni-channel retailer that's driven by the digital revolution.
A measure of success of IT from India is the fact that our footprints are growing in our neighboring countries, in Asia, most importantly South Asia, and even far removed countries like Argentina. Our IT companies are starting delivery centers in Vietnam, Philippines, Malaysia, and other Asian countries.
About 2 decades back, we started as the first offshore development center outside of Germany. That was in India. Today, after 20 years, we have really matured and attain leadership as an offshore development center. We have in fact developed new centers like in Vietnam, like in Mexico. We are looking for another location in East Europe. So we have the leadership to also lead the activities that are being done from our centers in Vietnam and Mexico.
There's a certain cost economics that we bring to a table, or cost advantages we bring to a table. You normally associate it with lower end work or the lower quality product, right? Because you always associate low cost with low quality. But I think what we've managed to bring to the table is to marry both, right? We can provide great scale and thereby great cost advantages, but also this is really high quality, high end work. So we were initially, I think, solving the scale problem and cost problem, but now I think we're also solving the customer intimacy and the innovation problem. So I think the fact that we could do both, I think, is a very unique characteristic for India.
So you see a lot of MNCs like us, including SAP, making a lot of investments into India and giving an employment opportunities. Also, what happened is a lot of Indian companies set up these IT arms of theirs, which could be exporting talent out of India. So there are a lot of people who are being hired, and being hired not only for India, being hired to service the globe. And we are moving up the value chain as far as delivering products or delivering services out of India are concerned.
In fact, I think our export business has positioned India as a software giant.
India is poised at a very key moment in its history, and the IT industry is intrinsic to its growth. Indeed, there is no facet of human endeavor that is untouched by information technology. What then is the role of IT in nation building?
What we have witnessed so far is merely the tip of the iceberg. The technology world is evolving into a mobile-first and a cloud-first world. And that offers an unprecedented opportunity for India to leapfrog and bypass intermediate technologies to go directly to the future.
And what's happening in the Indian marketplace, the digital revolution, the telecom revolution, I think the Indian IT industry is creating a very entrepreneurial space for new companies, new businesses to emerge, for innovation to take place.
I would look at the IT industry in helping the nation in two ways. One is internally focused and the domestic environment, where with the implementation of things like the centralized railway reservation system, things like now the online income tax forms, things have just become so much more efficient, streamlined, and transparent. And then the other part, which is our export revenue as a result of our IT services business and now our product business. That has gotten serious foreign exchange for the country when it needed the most, and that continues.
I think it created a brand for the country, because when we started, India wasn't known for anything substantial, right, except for tourism, but now it's known for IT and its prowess. So I think that's very good. The fact it created huge employment, right? 3.2 million people are directly employed. And then you have this indirect employment that happens where for every one direct job, there are 3.5, 4 indirect jobs that created. It's also changed the way cities look, right? So if you look at the major cities where IT is flourishing, it's a big change. If you start looking at the impact on society, right, it gave a new fillip to education. Colleges came up, the standard of the teaching in the colleges went up.
Look at the Indian demography. 50% of India's population is below 25 years of age. Over the next 10 years, as this young population comes into the workforce, they will be the engines for creativity, for innovation, for commerce. It's a powerhouse of talent sitting right there. And this young population is not necessarily urban. It's not coming out of the elite institutions. It's coming out of the tier 2, tier 3 cities, through semi-urban, rural spaces, not necessarily from the top institutions. And yet there is a hunger, there's an ambition. And when we talk about urbanization, really, urban is in the mind. Today, these kids have access to all the information. They have access to all the consumerism. They're influenced by media, just like any urban child. And that's where the powerhouse lies.
Many other IT organizations, my organization also believes in giving back to the society. And what we do is that we tie up with the government organizations and the NGOs to get the technology back down to the villages. This is not only to the small towns, but right down till the villages. So these villagers are having an access to the technologies to access the national development programs for their own benefit.
In a country like India, where inclusion is so important and this is the top priority for the government to do it, I think it offers again another opportunity for a unique collaboration between the industry and the government. For the first time, we are seeing technology getting consumerized. Earlier, technology was helping governments, it was helping corporate. But the big difference when it gets consumerized is that you can leverage that technology for the common man.
We are in Jaipur, the normally exuberant pink city of Rajasthan. Somewhat muted today by the rains. But as we drive out into the countryside, towards the village of Orion, in the shadow of the Aravalli Hills, the sun is out in strength. So is the village school, and so is the emphasis once again on English, science, and mathematics. And more importantly, a model digital literacy project is underway in Orion, part of a national goal to make at least one person per household illiterate by 2020.
We adopted 3 villages where we set up computer training centers to basically increase their productivity. Whether it was a student, a farmer, a housewife, an entrepreneur, but the goal was really enable them to use technology in a way that they can benefit from it.
मैं डिजिटल लिटरेसी मिशन से जुड़ा हुआ हूँ और गाँवों में हम लोगों को कंप्यूटर साक्षर करने का काम कर रहे हैं और हम चाहते हैं कि जो शहरों के लोगों को सुविधाएं मिल रही हैं कंप्यूटर से, इंटरनेट के माध्यम से, वो भी गाँव वाले उसका भरपूर फ़ायदा उठा सकें.
The kind of impact, the kind of changes we saw in each and every one of those 3 villages was absolutely amazing. People who had stopped studying decided that since there were so many online courses, etc. available, they would go and complete the higher education that they had left off. Especially women coming together, setting up Facebook pages or setting up online forums where they create the awareness of their products, of their groups, and start increasing their sales and increasing their income. A lot of the people who got trained were able to get hired as data operators, data entry operators, analysts in rural BPOs, etc.
Almost 33% of the workforce are women, right? And many of these women are the biggest earner in their family. So they are not only earning money, they've changed the way their families lived. So the downstream impact of this industry is just been enormous. And I think there is much more to do. So I would think that in the times to come, you would see the impact even more.
There's a light drizzle and a gentle breeze as we drive out on a gleaming new road 200 kilometers away from the city of Bombay. As we step off the highway, the world slows down and the landscape changes. We are heading in the direction of a tribal belt near the border of the state. This is the land of the Warlis, renowned the world over for their ancient tradition of wall paintings that depict the gentle, everyday cycles of village life. Of sowing, transplanting, and finally of harvesting with much celebration. Scores of smartly turned out children of all ages brave the rains to the local school. The girls, invariably with luminous red ribbons in their hair, seem particularly well represented. It is from this school that young Jayavant learnt English, science, mathematics, and world history, then went on to an engineering school in the city, and is today a young IT professional in one of India's largest IT companies. His best friend, also from the same tribal school, too is an IT professional based in Sweden. Jayavant and Sabina live in the big city of Mumbai with their son, who may well go to a big city school and to an even bigger IT institution someday, and eventually become an IT professional himself, as the IT industry in India leapfrogs into a brave new future.
The world is the market, and technology being at the center of all changes, the opportunities continue to grow. So I think this is one place which is very unique, where while we compete fiercely, we collaborate as fiercely as well. And I think that's what's leading this industry to grow, common shared practices, learning from each other, and that's been very, very exciting.
In that spirit, we would like to share the best practices with our peers and our competitors, and make it a win-win situation for the country and for the industry in general.
I think the IT industry is really going to change the world as we move forward and be a bigger part of everything that we do. And the opportunity for the young people coming in today to really have an impact and to innovate and change everything that's happening in the world, leveraging what we can do in IT.
These are indeed exciting times, a time of tectonic change in the industry and in India. To the young people, I would say, you are in the right country, the right industry, and at the right time. The rules of the game are being rewritten today. You have the opportunity to be at the forefront of this change, to be the game changers for India.